We are back in San Diego for Social Media Marketing World.
Yeah, man, it's awesome sitting in this balcony overlooking Pacific Beach, watching these surfers absolutely shred it. It's going to be us, right, Chris?
Yeah, in about an hour or two, we're going to go out there during this high surf advisory warning and see if we're still alive after.
It's kind of like entrepreneurship, though. You know, if there's no risk of failure and death, then is it worth doing?
Yeah, you got to get out of your comfort zone. Boy, I got to get into a wetsuit here first. The water is cold. So welcome back. We are just four guys who are crazy about our wives. We love our kids, and we want to kill it in business. And this week, it's Jamie, Michael, and I in San Diego. Chris McCluskey is not able to join us on this one. Chris, we miss you. We love you, man. It's good to be back, though, guys. You know, yesterday we had some fun, flew in together, grabbed an Uber, and just enjoyed being together, talking EFM stuff. I'm looking around the room here. We got some sunburns because the sun was out in full force. But we had a lot of fun, and it's just good to be back. A year ago, we had just started this podcast.
Yeah, now we have 60-something odd episodes. It's hard to believe.
Oh, yeah, man. I remember we were all giddy, crowded around the computer in the hotel room recording like our third episode or something. We're like, this is going to be amazing. We're influencers.
We had one microphone, remember? And we would lean in and then move out. Be like, Michael, get in here. Get in here, Michael.
Yeah, and now we're so sophisticated because we have two microphones.
We've multiplied. The cool thing that we're going to talk about today is one of the reasons this whole thing and this whole idea of EFM started was we're looking around with the blessing of our wives, peace at home. We're at this conference, enjoying the beach, enjoying California burritos, just realizing this is a pretty unique blessing that we have. And we want to revisit that topic in a way that is really setting the stage for when you're gone. How can you help set the stage at home to have that peace?
It's a good conversation to have. If we can't leave our homes in a place of peace, that's probably going to be our last trip on our own. Our wives aren't going to be excited about us going.
Exactly. I remember the genesis of this podcast is we were talking about how was it that we were getting little messages from our kids and we didn't leave our house in disarray. We're going to circle back and talk about that.
We just want to circle back around on this conversation, this topic of what can we do? What are some practical ways, if you are a man heading out on a conference or going on a business trip, how can you leave your house, your household, those you love in a great way?
You know, one thing that's helpful for me right away is to get into the mindset of where Lydia is going to be. I'm imagining myself with all three kids by myself, feeding them all the meals, taking care of the house, making sure they take their naps, making sure they're clean and they don't hurt themselves. And just that thought of me being in that position, I'm like, man, that's pretty overwhelming. That's like, there's a lot to it. So being in that mindset helps me start to form some compassion and start to think through, okay, how can we make this a little bit easier on her?
Yeah, and our wives are real people with feelings. I think it's important for us to be grateful and know that it's difficult for us when our wives go someplace. And so we leave just with that attitude of, thank you, honey, for all the work that you do around the house. You do so many things. And again, you know, some men are thinking, my wife needs to go get a job. Our wives have probably like one of the most difficult jobs that anybody can do.
Absolutely.
As far as multitasking and doing, they're full-time Uber drivers, they're full-time cooks, and then they have to deal with us on top of it. Bless their hearts.
By the way, the guy that said that is either now dead or has been left.
So, Michael, how do we get in this mindset of understanding what could it be like for our wives, or what is a practical action we can even address with her prior to leaving?
Well, we sure don't want to make an ass out of you, Emmy. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's for assume, right?
Assume, right. Yeah, I'm not talking about the animal or anything like that. But yeah, we have to ask her, like, what is hard about when I'm gone? What's that thing that you're dreading that you know is going to happen and you're not going to have my help. Talk about that. What's going to be the hardest thing when I'm away? And just understanding from her perspective, not assuming, but hearing from her what she's dreading, that can be a helpful place to start.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, we were on the McCluskey farm. So we've been out of town, away from our wives for not back-to-back weekends, but we skipped a weekend. And one thing that happened for me is, this is fresh on my mind. So I got home from the airport after being on the McCluskey farm, and I asked Ruthie how it was, and she told me the fact that we had gone on a date just 2 days before I had left for that trip to McCluskeyville, that had made a big difference because we built that rapport and just made that connection. We talked about what it was going to be like when I was gone. I was listening, Michael. I was doing that. I wasn't making an assumption. I was thinking, what did I just learn from the last trip that I went on? What did Ruthie actually say that I don't need to ask her again? So this week, we went on a happy hour date again. We went out.
Yeah, we did the same 2 days prior. And it was the same kind of thing, like, okay, anticipate what could it be that might be tough, and just having that connection. So I asked Alicia, hey, can you get a babysitter for Sunday night? Because I'm going to be gone by Tuesday, and let's make this thing happen. So it's understanding that. But I like, and I want to dig deeper on just this question of coming together as a couple and understanding like the question of what is going to be hard, like practically. What works in your house? I mean, is it the laundry? Is it the dishes? Is it the meal planning, the groceries?
Yeah, I know what Lydia's answer is, and it's just not having a break. She has these toddlers tugging at her clothes, asking, hey, mama, I want this. I want a snack. I want this. And just being in that interaction, constant interaction all the time and not having a break, that's probably the hardest thing for her because it just exhausts her. When she tells me that, I'm thinking through, okay, what can I do to give her a break while I'm gone? So sometimes my parents will take the kids and they love being with them. That could give her a little bit of a break. Maybe I'll even call a babysitter on one of those days and say, can you come for a couple hours just to give her some time to decompress and get away? And that's been a huge blessing for her.
I love that idea of you ask your wife what's difficult, and then she knows that we care about it because we're asking the question. And that's how Ruthie always appreciates it when I ask her, what do you need from me? On top of asking that question, we can just know what's difficult in general that is a big bang for the buck when we're there. What can we do to jump in and help with the kids and around the house when we're there? We got to know just those things aren't going to change when we're gone. They're actually going to be maximized because she has less time to do those things. So, I mean, that's just a great start for all of us to think about. Like, before we leave, let's make sure the things that are most difficult that we know are done. There's certain tasks around the house that I hate less than others. And the tasks that our spouses hate, that's a good place to start, right? Just do a load of dishes or help out. Leave. Like, one thing I'm thinking is, let's not have our wives clean up after us when we're gone. Let's not be, I have 4 children. I don't want to be the 5th kid, especially when I'm gone 1,000 miles away. So do your own laundry and fold it the week before so that our wife's not there going through our dirty laundry while we're gone and cleaning up after us like we're another child.
Yeah, we already act that way, so they don't need the reminders around the house.
They don't need to trip over some dirty underwear left on the floor.
I love what you both said there, though, about just anticipating what's the greatest pain that she might experience, or what's the thing that she least like doing that just has to be done, right, as a parent. And I know one thing like Alicia appreciates that she does not enjoy doing is getting the house stocked with food, like doing the groceries and doing that grocery run before I leave somewhere. And then in this example for this week, it's even more tough for her because she's actually flying right now as we speak with the kids here. And so it was stocking the house with groceries, but then also getting like the snacks for the plane and like some activity books or whatever. And then making sure like, okay, the top of her email or in the calendar has the hotel reservations and the car rental stuff. So she just lands and it's there.
That's awesome, Chris. Man, I didn't know she was flying here. That's fun. You guys hanging out here after for a little bit?
Yeah, she's coming in. She lands like in a few hours. Actually, may go surprise her. We'll see.
Awesome.
But she's heading straight up to Palm Springs. She's going to land, get the rental car, go to Palm Springs, visit her mom and some family, and then come back down here after the conference, or we're going to hang.
That sounds so much
So
fun.
yeah, part of it was like getting out the suitcases and all those things for the kids like the day before I left, because I know yesterday was probably a tough day just packing for 5 people. And
Yeah, flying with 4 kids, that's a lot. Yeah, that's cool.
well, she is like you guys, adventure is out there, and so she's like, I can get on a plane and go somewhere. Let's do it. 4 kids in tow, though. That's a little tougher. So we've talked about asking that question, but then also because we've had this history of going on these trips and doing these conferences, the other point here is, what have you learned from the past? What are some things, good or bad, that we've learned from past trips and how we've been able to hopefully provide some of that peace at home?
I like what you said about the golden rule, Jamie. I mean, it's just as simple as thinking about her and what has been hard for her in the past. And when I think about that, sometimes it's just really simple things like filling the car with gas, making sure everything at home is buttoned up, like with the bills, with anything that might be broken around the house or that's like kind of an inconvenience that would be hanging over her head, addressing some of those things and just thinking about her. What would make this easier for her?
If you're from Buffalo and you're leaving for San Diego, like you, Michael, you might want to salt the back steps. She goes out there and sees pictures of us on social media of us cruising around on scooters with breakfast burritos and the snow's coming down. At least the sidewalk is salted, right? No, I love what you were saying about the golden rule. If we were home with a plethora of children, wouldn't it be nice just to have some meals planned out?
Did you say a plethora of children?
I think you keep
Jamie's word of the week.
you keep saying that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. What would you like for your wife to do before she leaves for 5 days if she was going to a conference or heading out and doing something? Planning meals for children is stressful. All the clothes for the children, having them laid out, those are my things that I would like. And if I'm jumping in the car, I'm just thinking of Ruthie jumping in the car with the kids and seeing that needle all the way up. That's a deposit in the relationship of, oh, my husband thought of me before he left, that I don't have to go and pump the gas.
Yeah, I got to riff off that one because I've had to learn the hard way on that. Because I think a few trips ago, as I'm leaving the airport, she's like, yeah, check engine light just went on.
Ouch.
And there's no gas in the car. So that's been something that I've had to add to my repertoire of like, fill the car up with gas the night before I leave for somewhere too, right? But I know one thing like Alicia really appreciates is the meal planning ahead of time. So just doing a couple extra meals before I leave and throwing it in the freezer or writing out, hey, then here's the next few days worth of meal ideas, so she doesn't even have to think about that. It's one less thing to do. Like you said earlier, there's a million things that our wives do at home every day. So to have one less thing that she has to plan or think about, it's already done. And we know like that 4 or 5 o'clock time runs around the house. It's like the witching hour of kids are getting crazier. And
Oh, yeah.
Another thing that's really easy to do, but it's also easy not to do, is to slow down. I don't know if you guys are like me, but the day before I travel, I got this list really long of I got to pack my bag and go here and run this errand. But I think it's really important to sit with your wife and have a cup of tea in the afternoon. Just slow down a couple times and check in 3 and 4 days before you leave. Just to leave the house in that spot where you're connected emotionally with your wife. And it doesn't take 30 minutes or it's really important. It's really good to go on a date and spend time and have a happy hour or do a meal. But if you can't do that, at least just slow down and have a coffee date.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jamie, because that doesn't happen if you don't plan. If you're not intentional and you don't think through this stuff a few days before, because if you're not planning, you're scrambling the day before you travel either way, and you don't have time for that stuff with your wife. So that's an important piece of this too, is really taking a few extra days in advance to think through this stuff.
Don't make an excuse that you have too long of a list to do that either. It takes 10 minutes to make a cup of tea and just go and sit with her and slow down before you get back to the busy life that you're in.
Yeah, I know one thing that we try to do like exactly the night before we leave is just block that night off for like a family night where we just say, hey, let's go on a long walk and talk together. let's do a couple board games, but not like sit in front of the TV and watch a movie. It's some meaningful time together before one of us is leaving for a trip, so that you have that baseline is filling up because you just had some awesome family time together. I mean, what are some other, just as we're kind of closing up here, just some practical things that we've done in the past or tips you'd recommend? I know one thing we talked about earlier was these ideas of writing notes or leaving notes in someone's suitcase, or years ago or last year was Alicia went on this trip to Portugal for 10 days. I hid a bunch of just like tiny little notes and some chocolates and things like that in several different outfits that she was going to wear. And then she blew me away by doing something similar for every day of those 10 days. She had written a note to every single one of us. So for me and all the 4 kids. And it was just like an awesome way where she was gone, but she planned out intentionally reminding us of her love, just being there as a present mom, even though she was half a world away.
I love that, Chris, because you're living out the romance that you already have going in your relationship. You're just doing it from afar. And in a way, it creates a little bit more magic because you have space between each other. You miss each other a little bit. So you start doing little things like that, like leaving them notes and kind of leveraging the time apart rather than just having it be this burden. You can get that romance going a little bit because you don't see each other. The magic builds. What's the saying? Absence makes the heart grow fungus.
I know Ruthie and I, when we travel, we're not super connected. We don't take 10-minute phone calls and connect the same way we do when we're at home. So we send each other these little texts that are not real deep. I just think that's a really good thing, just to send romantic text and say, hey, honey, I miss you. I love you. Even if you're having a really good time, I think it's really important that our wives know that we're thinking about them and that we care. Write that in a text. Hey, hon, I arrived from the airport. It's beautiful here, but I miss you. I wish you were here. How are things for you?
Yeah, that's good. I know, I don't know if your wives are like this, but Alicia loves emoji texts quite a bit. So sometimes it's just that simple, like sending her a couple of those emoji texts with the kisses and the hearts in the eyes. And
yeah,
it's just those, like, speaking her little love language a little bit while she's gone.
Yeah, that's good. My wife is so sweet. She plants these little notes in my bag that I find when I open up my bag when I get to the hotel room, and there's a note. She's telling me how much she misses me and how much she loves doing life with me, and how she can't wait till we do a trip together like that. And that stuff goes a long way. And we try to outdo each other with that now, which is really fun. I try to hide something under her pillow or know that she'll find something a few days later and put it there and let her know that I'm thinking about it. It's such a cool opportunity to build that connection and that romance and that mystery when you're apart, because when you're around each other all day, as EFM guys do, a lot of us work from home, that can happen. You start to lose that thrill of being away from each other when you're around each other all the time. So this is like a great opportunity to do that.
We were joking around yesterday. Every relationship between a husband and wife is different. Ruthie always thinks I'm funny. I don't know what's wrong with her, but she actually thinks I'm funny. I sent her this text. I said, hope you're cooking good for the kids, with the exclamation. And also make sure you get my laundry done before you come back. That wouldn't work for some people to write. But Ruthie thought it was hilarious because I actually helped out before I left. She knew that it was just me being funny, and she enjoys me being silly like that.
I just got a chance to look at your text over your shoulder. She just called you a booger, by the way.
Bugger, not booger. But she clicked on it. She said, ha, 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 and then said, you bugger. And I said, miss you, honey, love you. And she said, love you too. And then she told me that what she was doing with the kids and what she was up to that day. We had that connection, and it wasn't all sterile. It was we were engaging each other authentically, and that's because we make those deposits with each other.
The opposite of sterile is bacterial, which is also a booger.
Bugger.
I think the opposite of sterile would be lively and engaging and life-giving.
Hey, love it.
That's good, guys. Well, this has been a fun one.
No, this is the section where you're like, so what about you? Come on, let's do it, Chris. What about you?
I was getting there.
Stop doing the quarterback's job, man. Monday morning it.
That's right. We just got a penalty. Too many men on the field. So what is it for you? If you are heading out, or if your wife is heading out of town, what can you do? Just make that time away even sweeter. Whether it's helping with the meals at home, or getting some chores done for her, filling up the gas tank, writing little love notes, and then while you're away, what are some ways you could be more intentional with connecting on a deeper level? Maybe it's the text. Maybe it's throwing some live videos or some Marco Polo messages to your kids and to her. Being intentional is what we're all about here at EFM.
Keep the love alive and keep the travel alive. Serve your wives well.
Thank you for listening to the Entrepreneurial Family Man Podcast. Visit efmlife.com to connect with us and others like you who are pursuing success in enterprise, family, and marriage.